everything that can be seen on YouTube, and the chair will begin shortly. Laura Alderson, are you there, please? And Sophia Ruddock?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Sophia.
thanks, Sophia. The chairman's about to start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video, except for me, panel chair Michael Clark. We have some technical difficulties, but we're still able to put up materials that deputants want to make reference to. The parties and members participating by video are Don Taylor, Sophia Ruddock, Laura Alderson, and Danny Bellissimo. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure will be as follows. We'll call each item in the order listed in the agenda for the 1 o'clock agenda item, starting at item 20. When an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentation. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will then mark the end of the discussion on that application. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for the items in the 1 o'clock time slot? No, none to declare. Okay. Okay, so we can start off with item number 20, 365 Kane Avenue. It's an application to construct a 2-story front addition, a 1-story rear addition, a new front porch, a new rear deck, and a front and rear parking space. There are 13 variances to the bylaw. We have planning condition of approval. They would like, in the event of approval, for it to be constructed as illustrated on the architectural plans dated March 31st, as it relates to the first and second floor. Transportation has no objection. And Urban Forestry is requesting condition number 2. We only have one registered speaker, Clinton Dochuk, the agent. Mr. Dochuk?
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Hello. And so we have the plans, we have the materials from the previously postponed hearing, and as I mentioned, planning and transportation. I don't believe we need a presentation. Is there anything you'd like to advise the committee?
No, I just would like the committee to take into consideration that it is a very narrow lot, and we're obviously trying to work within the confines of what's there, but we have some limitations there, and hopefully we can come to an amicable solution today with an acceptance.
Okay, committee members, any questions for the agent? And if not, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo would like to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Yeah, doesn't appear to be.
I move approval of the 13 variances, many variances, but I can understand why, because of the site conditions and the narrowness of it. I find each and every one of those variances very minor in nature. And move approval on the conditions by forestry and planning.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dochuk.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee members.
Okay, the next application is item number 2164 Thompson Avenue. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage and a cabana in the rear yard. There are 4 variances. We have the materials in the previously postponed hearing, planning rationale, photos of similar dwellings. We have number 66 next door in support, and we have TOCA, the Thompson Orchard Association, Community Association, has a memo regarding relocation of the cabana. And we only have one speaker, Frank DiGiorgio, agent for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Chairman, the committee will have before them a submission that I made outlining the planning rationale in support of the proposal. With respect to the Community Resident Association that had a comment on the relocation of the cabana at the rear, I think that was meant to support the fact that the applicant did relocate it.
Yes, yes.
To the concerns of the abutting owner. And so, in essence, the project is well conceived, well designed, and it was designed by Tony Jacinto to conform with all of the policies in the official plan and all of the zoning bylaw requirements, save and except the fact that there are some minor deviations from the zoning bylaw identified in the 4 variances. And as I indicated in my submission, the zoning relief requested is in keeping with the zoning bylaw intent and purpose. There's no adverse impacts generated by the variances. And I might add that the applicant and the designer met with the surrounding community and planning staff to make some minor changes to the variances to bring the proposal into greater conformity with the official plan and the zoning bylaw. So there was consensus here with the community that the variances are in fact acceptable and that they're minor and not overly significant in the area. It is an extraordinary, I think, project that has tremendous merit.
Yes.
And I've got approval of the variances.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeGiorgio. I'll also point out that, you know, and I had made a note when I was doing my review that this TOCA letter is very well reasoned. It highlights the fact that they approached you, you made the changes to mitigate. They go on that although the FSI of 6.7 seems high, and the other variances, they justify why in this case it's considered acceptable. So it's a very well done letter by the Community Association. Committee members, any questions for Mr. DeGiorgio, or is someone ready for a motion? And we do have the urban forestry 2 and 3 being requested as a condition.
Mr. Chair, I find the variances meet the four tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Sophia Ruddock, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. DeGiorgio.
Thank you, Chair and committee members.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
for the next application, the neighbor at 21 Ashwood will not be joining us. So it'll be just the agent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 22 is, 22 is 20 Totteridge Road. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, an attached garage along the west side of the dwelling, a new front porch, a rear covered patio, and a rear second-story balcony. And there are 7 variances. Hold on. Planning is asking for a condition of approval, construct as illustrated regarding the second floor balcony, which is substantial. Transportation has no objection, and we have 9 letters in support. Okay, and we have the speaker is Chris Naylor, the agent for the applicant, and that's the only speaker.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. The proposal as summarized is to build a second floor on an existing house. So most of the variances are attributable to the existing layout of the existing house because we're using the existing exterior walls to put the second floor on. I think most of the variances are indeed minor, and we look forward to hearing your decision.
Okay, so let's see if committee members have any questions for you. The second story balcony.
Yes.
Can you give us, is it really a first floor balcony? It's 31.2 meters squared, whereas 4 meters is permitted.
That's correct. The second floor balcony, the plans call for a very generous master bedroom and ensuite bathroom. And then this area for this balcony is within the footprint of the main building. So it's not a projecting balcony.
Okay.
And we know that planning have asked us to have the condition that we build it as per the drawings. And that is in fact the case. That's what our client wishes to do.
Okay. Yeah, so it's recessed. It's not a projecting. It's within the envelope.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, committee members, any questions for the agent? Or is someone ready to make a motion? We do have like 10 letters of support on this. 9+1.
Annie Bellissimo's ready to make a motion for approval. I move approval of the, let's see, there's 7 variances, that's correct, right? Yep. And the condition set by forestry and planning, 2 conditions, 1 each.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Naylor.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 23 is 17 Ballantyne. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. And there are 7 variances. We have a covering letter, urban forestry requesting condition number 2, 13 letters of support, and 2 conditions from transportation planning. And registered to speak on this application is the agent, Jason Huther.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Jason Heater from HTS Dwell on behalf of my clients at 17 Valentine Court.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
I don't think we need a presentation. Is there anything you'd like to advise the committee? Or I can see if they have some questions for you.
No, not much to add. The intent here is to put up a replacement dwelling that fits in really nicely with the neighborhood, and ideally just sort of setting it on top of its current footprint, setbacks, front yard setback. In fact, improving that. So. Again, you'll note that the clients have canvassed the neighborhood and have great relationships with the neighborhood, and there's 13 letters of support on file for this.
Correct. Okay, committee members, we have a lot of support, no real opposition to this, and the transportation conditions and urban forestry. Is anyone ready to bring a motion, or anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I believe the,
Go ahead, Don.
okay, thanks, Danny. I believe the 7 variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move for approval subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Okay, thank you. And the transportation, did you say it was the transportation as well? Did I hear you mention transportation?
I'm sorry, I didn't have a note on there. They'd made comments, but
There is none? Oh, sorry, they just said they have no objection.
No objection.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I'll leave my motion as is then.
Yes.
Approve subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
There are? Yeah, I had noted 2 conditions, or,
Yes. I'll amend my motion, subject to urban forestry conditions 2 and 3, and the conditions requested by the Transportation Department.
thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Unanimous approval, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, you have your variances. Okay, item number 24 is 6 Glenaden Avenue East, and it's an application to construct a new dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances, and we have on this application cover letter, we have 4 letters of support, we have planning requesting a condition of approval that variance number 1 be reduced as set out in that memo. They go on to say that the applicant an analysis of committee decisions found that the majority of approvals do not exceed a gross floor area of 118 meters plus 36%. These concerns have been communicated. However, the applicant has chosen to proceed with the variance at 44% of the lot. Okay, so that's the one condition. This would be to reduce, modify that variance. We have one speaker, William Hall, the agent.
Hello, this is William Hall, Architrave Design Architect. I'm here on behalf of my clients, John and Jennifer Madden.
Yes.
You should have in front of you that cover letter, which explains my rationale for our request. I'm happy to take questions or expand on that letter, whatever you please.
Well, okay. So I just would like you to go. The community planner is suggesting that they communicated to you that most approvals are at 36, 118 plus 36, and you were asking for 44. Did you have any discussions? Did you reduce that at all? Did you point out the rationale in your cover letter? You have to obviously committee that your proposal is, and you've had a lot of time because that proposal was August the 6th, April the 6th, before the previously aborted hearing on the 13th. So what has happened, and can you please make a presentation to the committee unless you're okay with the planning condition?
Well, I'm we would like to proceed. We did have that conversation with the planner very, very early on in the process. And the upshot of that is I explained to them, the real thing of contention here is the use of the third floor, or even having the area on the third floor. The clients, my John Madden, has an elderly father, and he is being prudent. He wanted to build into the structure the potential of having a third floor bedroom suite for his father when his father gets immobile. This is not today, but this is, again, something that we're in front of committee. We wanted to make the request. We wanted to make the argument. And in conversation with the planner, I mean, it was very clear what it was. Basically a binary choice. The number that they have recommended is without, and the number that we're asking for your support is with the third floor. That's the exact difference between the numbers. So it wasn't even a case of could we cut back, could we reduce the length? There wasn't that kind of an issue, because obviously if the structure is there, the stair is there, then the zoning examiner is obliged to take the area down to the 1.4 meter height, regardless of what we actually end up putting in that space. So it's, as I say, it's kind of an either or choice. Now the planner was actually quite complimentary that how well this was hidden. I mean, they're basically from the street. There's absolutely there's no indication at all that there is a third floor. The only dormer faces to the rear across to Park Lawn Cemetery. So overlook, shadowing, no different in all of the normal tests of harm from a planning point of view. The neighbors either side and up and down the street are supportive. So we would like to make the case that the planners, yes, from a pure numbers point of view, it is higher than normal on this street. But if you actually look around, as I pointed out in my cover letter, there was a larger precedent set not that long ago, back in 2014, at number 15 Glen Aden, and that was actually for a higher number, 46%, and it actually works out to about 0.73 times coverage, which is very large even for this neighborhood. If you go around Glen Aden is a street that changes lot size a lot, but much more comparable would be Sunnylee Avenue East, just to the south, same size lots, same depth lots, and we get numbers at 0.59 times, 0.56, 0.58 times. So is the number we're asking for absolutely right in the middle? No, it is not, by no means. But we just feel that in terms of what it is that we're actually intending to accomplish, we feel it should meet the 4 tests.
Okay, thank you.
We'd like to contend that it does.
Okay, I just wanted you to get to the point of your letter, which you did, that you basically said that the third floor is entirely within the volume of the roof and largely invisible, and that the staff report focuses on the numbers and didn't take into your consideration the fact that it is in the roof line, which we sometimes do see that, and it is overlooking a cemetery in terms of overlook. So committee members, any questions from Mr. Hall, or is someone, Ms. Ellerson, you have your hand up?
I do have a quick question, yes. There seems to be an inconsistency in this application in that the notice says that you are building a new detached dwelling with attached garage, yet your letters of support, form letters of support from the neighbors say that you are proceeding with addition and renovations to the existing property. So I find the form letter a little disingenuous.
The form letter is what is known as an absolute mistake, and I apologize to the committee for that. It's a absolute standard form letter that I print out. It's just a bullet form letter, and if I got the wrong wording inserted into that, then I apologize profusely.
Well, I guess if neighbors are signing on to this, we need to know. I think they have a right to know what they're signing on to, and if it's incorrect, you know.
The neighbors saw all the drawings for this project.
Okay, I will take your word for that.
I apologize again.
Okay, any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion. Find that the variance of minor in nature, especially 1 and 2, which are side setbacks, and in terms of number 1, I agree with the applicant that the design is such that these issues I don't think are relevant in my mind, and so I would like to leave the recommendation number 1 as is, as was presented to the community, and approve. Make a motion for approval of 1, 2, and 3 as presented. I don't believe there are any other conditions, no forestry conditions. Thank you.
Yes, so that's to approve the application. We typically talk about approving the application, not the variances, but you're approving all the variances, so that means the entire application.
Yes, that's right. The entire application, the variances as they were sent out to the community and as they saw the drawings as well.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? So the motion carries 4-1 with Sophia Ruddick dissenting. Thank you. You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next application is item number 2529 Donalbert Road. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 6 variances. We have the plans and the zoning waiver for April 22nd, which would have been after the April 13th aborted hearing. We have supporting materials, an applicant's presentation. We have planning report and 2 emails, and we have 3 letters of support. Planning is requesting a reduction in variances 1 and variance 4. And the speaker on this application, we have Graham Barrett for the applicant, as well as Claudia Zanier at 20 Northland Avenue. Mr. Barrett.
Good afternoon, committee members, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. So, if I correctly summarize the application.
Sure, gladly. One thing I'd like to mention, you mentioned that planning was asking for reductions in a couple of the variances. They are not. They asked for some reductions to the original version of the plans, and we worked closely with them to make revisions. Last word I had was no staff report, and just a request that if we're approved today, that it be tied to the most recent plans submitted. So planning staff were satisfied by the adjustments that we made, but I'm doing a full presentation here.
Okay, no, I guess not. Okay, so sorry. So basically, you did reduce to what they were originally looking for, right? So now they're okay. Now they're okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I had a note here that a condition still applies, but.
Yeah, it's a condition to
the
tie
April
plans.
22nd. Oh, the tying. Okay. Very good. Does everyone understand that? That we have a new requested condition that it should be constructed as illustrated on the architectural plans as it relates to building length and depth. But the previous memo that said to change 2 of the variances is no longer applicable because the applicant has in fact changed those variances. Is that correct, Mr. Barrett?
Yes, that sounds right to me.
Okay, so with your permission, why don't we hear from the neighbor, and you'll have a chance to respond. Unless there's anything you'd like to add this time, other than correcting me that community planning is no longer recommending asking for reductions.
No, I mean, this is a reasonable proposal. Staff have been consulted extensively. Neighbors have been consulted. I also dropped letters at numerous homes nearby and haven't heard back from anybody with any questions or concerns. I know the owner has made an effort to speak with his neighbors as well, though it's been a little tricky these days.
Yes.
I'm aware of the urban forestry condition regarding a private tree. This was for a tree in the rear, southeast corner of the lot, and it was required when the plan was to remove the existing shed. But the owner has since decided to keep that shed, so a private tree condition should no longer be required. and we can obtain a clearance letter if necessary.
Yep.
There's also a city tree in the front that can be adequately protected, but unfortunately, the owner received a notice from the city that they would be removing this Norway maple, so that's out of our hands. I do have some photos in my presentation materials. We can get to that if you'd like to see them. And I have done some precedence research, and we fall squarely in the middle in terms of floor space index, coverage, height, and building length, which I think is the most important one here. On paper, the variances for building length and depth do seem excessive. This is because the area under the rear deck will be excavated and used as cold storage. This is therefore taken into account in the building length and depth numbers. The actual building length and depth above grade is about 16.75 meters and would comply with the bylaw maximum. So that's about it. Neighbors have been consulted, no opposition.
Yeah, there is one person here, Mr.
Be very suitable.
Mr. Graham, Mr. Barrett, there is someone here with comments. I'm just trying to locate them on the location map. It's on North Glen, which looks like it's sort of over on the side street, number 20.
Okay.
Okay, we're listening to some paper shuffling, but anyway. So let's hear from the neighbor and you'll have a chance to respond. Can you please mute people because someone's shuffling papers and it's... Okay, thank you. Okay, let's hear from Claudia Zanier.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I didn't want to say anything. I just wanted to listen. I wasn't gonna, I don't have any...
You don't have any comments or concerns?
No, I don't have any concerns,
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right. You were listed as a speaker, so that's all right. Okay, Mr. Barrett, then nothing to respond to from the neighbor on North Glen. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you or if they're ready for a motion.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I find the variances requested to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move for approval subject to the Community Planning Department condition as set out in their email dated May 19, 2021.
Okay, that's about instruct as illustrated condition. Thank you.
Yes.
Seconder for that motion?
Danny Bellissimo.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Chairman, for the next application, the adjacent neighbor at 21 Elder will not be joining us.
Okay, we do have their letter, however. Right, so we did have one letter in opposition. So, okay, 23 Elder. This is an application for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. And there are 5 variances. We have a revised notice changing the FSI, or is it the GFA, one of those two, variance number 1, from 0.69 to 0.63. In the revised, it was originally 0.69 at the last hearing. So we have the revised plans and waiver, we have the Long Branch guidelines, we have a planning report for information on a cover letter, and 21 Elder is opposed. And yeah, we have the checklist completed. And the speaker on this application is Eddie Perez.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairman, committee members.
Yes.
I'm Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owners.
Yes, we also have the lady who wrote the letter from 21 is not going to be speaking, but we have Andy Scholes here on behalf of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. So there is another speaker. Okay. And we have the planning report for information. So, Mr. Perez, would you like to make a short presentation or just wait to hear what the concern is and respond to that?
Well, I can make a short presentation just to start with.
Okay.
We've been working very hard with planning on behalf of planning for this project. We originally started off with higher numbers. We had the roof was at 9.91. We brought the top of the roof, 9.79 originally. Now the roof to the top is only 8.82 meters. Underside of the soffit was originally also higher. It's now down to 7.37. It was, and we've lowered it by 87 centimeters. We had a room over the garage that is no longer there. Our FSI went from 0.3 we are allowed 0.35. We're at 0.63, which is a lot lower than what we originally planned. And we've worked very hard with planning. We changed the drawings on several occasions. When we first did these drawings, we went in the neighborhood and we saw the houses and we took pictures. We originally were trying to get it built as such, but planning wasn't supporting it. So we made all these changes and worked very hard with planning to see if we can get this project moving forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perez. I'll also point out that the letter of concern from 21, who isn't here, and from Andy Choles on behalf of the Long Branch Neighbors Association were both written prior to the previous hearing on April the 13th, and they're obviously before you made those reductions that you've just outlined for us. So I'll just say that. So let's, anyone have any questions for Mr. Perez, or let's go to Mr. Choles to see if what his position is compared to his email of April the 9th. Now the changes have been made. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Choles.
Hello, my name is Andy Choles. I live at 12 Jasmine Avenue in Long Branch. I serve on the board of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. I'd like to speak out against this planned build at 23 Elder. This proposed build is still a very large house. The applicant did reduce the FSI to 0.63 from 0.69, but it's still close to double, 180% to be more precise, of the allowable FSI for this area according to the official plan of Toronto. The applicant, in his response to the Long Branch Character Guidelines heightened massing page, used a 4-story stacked townhouse located at 68 Daisy as something to justify the size of this home. This home is in a completely different zoning area, a higher density housing specifically granted for the former Vincent Massey School property. This comparison is not appropriate for the property at 23 Elder. The proposed house is also situated too close to the east lot line referred to in the second variance. The present neighbor is afraid that the border trees will be damaged or destroyed if this build goes ahead, and rightly so. Again, in the applicant's response to the guidelines, it states private-owned trees will need to be removed to accommodate the construction as per an arborist report and will be compensated. Compensated to me means that the trees will be gone, and there are quite a few. The loss of these trees will affect not only the green space around them, but also their privacy in their backyard of the neighbor. The applicant offered to build a fence between the properties, a little more privacy, but those trees are gone, and the trees will be gone. In return, the neighbor will be treated to a fence. In return, the neighbor will be treated to a fence in front of a very tall brick wall running the entire length of the home. There is also plans for a large deck behind the home. I found no tree for any tree protection in the supporting documents that I could find. Making the house narrower by less than a foot to allow the 0.9 meter setback to be maintained from the east lot line. This would give the trees just a bit more room and maybe even reduce the FSI a couple of notches. Please just leave the trees there and protect them properly. The tree canopy in Long Branch has long suffered over the years. A study often shown to this committee by the LBNA has revealed that while other areas of Etobicoke have maintained their tree cover or improved it, Long Branch has had a reduction in the tree canopy of a whopping 43%. And we've showed that chart numerous times to this committee. You would think a community named Long Branch that the trees would be better protected in our area. One thing this pandemic has taught many of us is the importance of our natural environment and the importance of being able to get outside in the green space outside the confines of your home community. The trees are extremely important to clean the air, buffer the noise, and provide shade. The neighborhood, natural environment, and the Yake-Russell family or future occupant living next door at 21 Elder will have their privacy seriously compromised should anything happen to these trees. There is no doubt that the development and new builds are a necessary thing in our neighborhood in all communities. The LBNA sometimes is accused of being anti-development, usually by the builders, but that's just not true. There are homes in our neighborhood that are in need of renewal, so new builds and renovations are a good thing. However, it is important to manage the development carefully so that we don't find ourselves pondering whatever happened to the wonderful neighborhood feel that we used to have in Long Branch. The loss of neighborhood character doesn't happen overnight. It happens a little at a time, house by house, when we forget to protect that character. I would hope the Committee of Adjustment would take a hard look at this application. The number of variances and fractions show that the house is too much of an overbuild for the lot and the area. I would urge you to start upholding the parameters of the official plan of Toronto. This committee should be supervising the construction of wonderful neighborhoods that will stand the test of time. Maybe just ask yourself the simple question, would I want to live beside this home? We're in a much tighter quarters in West Toronto than, say, Caledon, where you could pretty well build what you want and your neighbor half a mile away really wouldn't be affected. We do have a little more space in Long Branch than downtown, and I think that extra space is what attracts people to our neighborhood. This application threatens both the quality of life features enjoyed in our neighborhood. The Ake Russell family are asking that the committee maintain the FSI for this property, protect some of the much needed trees, and keep their privacy concerns in mind. This seems like very reasonable things to ask, and I would hope the municipal government would want protected. But I'm sure there's room for negotiation that will arrive at a solution that is more acceptable and will result in a home that is more compliant to the guidelines. I think that what we're after today, even after these families have moved on in 10, 15, 20 years, or even if they move this year, this house will remain. The choices that are made today will continue to affect the character and the environment of the neighborhood long after all of us are gone. I would urge the committee to refuse this application, or if that's not possible, to defer to a later date, so perhaps a plan can be drafted that is more compliant to the parameters set out in the City of Toronto's official plan and the Long Branch Character Guidelines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Choles before we go back to Mr. Perez for to respond to that and find out what the status? I see we do have an urban forestry condition number 2 on this. So does anyone have any questions for Mr. Choles? Okay, so let's go back to Mr. Perez.
Hello, good afternoon again. I heard all the comments that the gentleman made. If you look at it, you can put up the site plan and you can see that there was a new house built, which 25A, which has a footprint similar to ours. It goes further back. Ours starts a little bit forward because of the front yard setback requirement. But as you can see, the house is similar to ours in length. We're not overbuilding. We're not asking for a length. We have a 0.69 side yard, whereas the existing house right now has 0.03 centimeters side yard. So we're improving that drastically. So that's a big improvement. We had an arbiter report done, and it's only one tree that falls in the category, and it's going to be, we're going to get a permit to injure it, and we're going to, whatever forestry we would like, we'll plant additional trees if necessary. We have no objections with planting trees. We're also like to keep with nature and such. We have no issue against that. Also, the variances are very minor. I've attached so many decisions in the area that are similar to ours or even greater than ours. Heights way higher than ours. So I feel that we meet the 4 tests. It's within the general intent of the official plan as maintained, and the intent of the bylaws also maintained, and the variances are minor in nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Perez? And if Ms. Alderson?
Question for Mr. Perez. Since you brought up 25, I think it's 25A and B I'm looking at. Since you brought them up, do you happen to know what the FSI is for either of those properties? You said they were comparable, but is your house bigger?
No, they're similar in size. I don't have it right in front of me, but I attached it there. If you look at the length, it's the same length as ours. If you look at the drawings that I sent in with the 3 houses side by side, technically theirs is a little higher than ours, right? At this point, originally ours was a little higher, but we lowered it all. So now we're lower than they are. If you see the picture that we sent to Long Branch with the 3 houses side by side, you can put that up in the screen. You can see that we're lower than the neighbor's house. So ours is very in keeping with the neighborhood. It's not an overbuild. And we feel that we meet the 4 tests. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Perez or for Mr. Choles, or is someone ready for a motion?
I find the proposal to be quite compatible with nearby development, particularly 25A and 25B Elder. I find the home size of less than 2,000 square feet to be in keeping with today's requirements for most homeowners. I find the variances to be minor in nature, and as was stated, in fact, some of the side yards have actually been improved. So I move approval, subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson? All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Perez. Thank you, Mr. Scholes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next application is 47 Genthorne Avenue. It's to construct a two-story rear addition, a partial second-story front addition, a new rear deck, and a covered front porch. There are 4 variances. We have conditions of approval from transportation dated April 6 before the last hearing, and we have absolutely nothing else. No comments from any other departments other than transportation and or from neighbors. The agent for this property speaking is Sergio De Nicola, the agent.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, very last minute change. Thomas Goral, because will be representing the application instead of Mr. De Nicola.
Okay, Thomas Goral. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is Thomas Goral. I'm the agent for the applicant, the homeowner.
Okay, I just said there's really nothing on this application other than the transportation conditions. There's no comments from neighbors or anything. Would you like to let the committee know anything else, or can I just see if they have any questions for you?
Yeah, if they have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Goral, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Mr. Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the condition requested by the Transportation Department.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that motion. Mr. Bellissimo, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Goral.
Mr. Chairman, for the next application, it'll be just the agent. If you flip the page, there was supposed to be another speaker from 9 Ludlow Avenue, but they will no longer be joining us.
They won't be joining us. Okay. So the next application, item 28, is 7 Ludlow Avenue. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances. We had 9 letters of opposition. We have, I guess the only comment, we have urban forestry requesting condition number 3. We also have community planning asking to reduce the FSI, is it FSI or GFA? From 0.64 to 0.6. It was originally at 0.68. The agent reduced it to 0.64, and the agent still wants it lower at 0.6. The planner wants it lower at 0.6. So we'll have to hear from the agent on that. Mr. Ibrahim.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. So I summarized the
Yes.
application on this. There's you have 4 variances. There were opposition letters. I don't know if those still apply. I assume they do. If the plans hasn't, I don't know if the plans have changed from 6.8 to 6.4 before or after those letters came in. But the community planner is requesting you still reduce it further, as explained in her report. Are you okay with that, or are you still wishing to go to 0.64?
Yeah, I'm wishing to go with 0.64, but I would like to bring to your attention that actually the zoning considered the covered porch as part of the FSI, which is around 0.02, and it was mentioned on the planning staff report. So actually we are asking for 0.62 FSI for the livable area. And just going back to the planning department comments about the nature of the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood.
Yep.
And actually what we did is we went more than the required side yard setback and the building length.
Yes.
So the permitted side yard setback is 1.2 meters, and we provided 1.3 meters on the garage side and 1.66 meters behind the garage, and the building length is 16 meters, which is 1 meter less than the permitted length. And I submitted maybe if you could bring it up on the screen, that would be great. So I submitted some, like a table and a map for the comparable properties, previous decision approved by the CYA, and they are all within 200 meters of our lot. So the committee approved up to 0.67 FSI. So we believe that we are maintaining the character of the neighborhood because our livable FSI is 0.62. Even if we consider the Porch, it's going to come to 0.64.
Yes, the Porch is 0.2,
So we-
right? And they acknowledge that in their
0.02,
report. So my question is, what's the difference in square footage, in square meters rather, between 0.6 and 0.64? And this shows that there are, it's not,
22 square meters.
Yeah, okay.
We already reduced that
yes,
from 0.68 to 0.64.
yes.
So if you are asking again, then we have to reduce another 22
Right.
square meters.
Okay. And your
And
position
the
is
owner,
yes, your position with this chart is that 0.64 is compatible with the neighborhood, and the planner
Yes.
is sticking just very closely to the numbers and not looking at anything else, like the Porch
Yes.
and the neighborhood context. Okay,
Yes.
Committee members, any questions? I guess we don't have another speaker anymore on this. We did have the opposition. I guess there was one opposition letter.
and we have two supporting letters.
Yes. Now, the opposition letter, I believe, also was before the previous hearing when you were at 0.68.
Yeah, and
that true?
the concern was just for the grading, is not related to the variances that we are asking for. And the owner met the neighbor, and then they agreed that, and we all know that we have to prepare the grading plan based on the grading criteria of the
Yes.
city of Toronto. So, yeah,
Yeah, I
there is
just
no
pulled.
objection about the development itself, the
That's
variance.
correct, sir. I just pulled up the letter, and it say dated April 6th, before you reduced it from 6.68 to 0.64, and they say their concern is related to the grading of the property. I
Right.
just want it done correctly, so any rainwater does not pool, et cetera, et cetera. But there was no mention of,
Yeah.
of the massing. Okay, committee
Exactly.
members, we have a very simple application. The only issue before us is whether it's at 0.64, as the applicant has reduced it from 0.68, or whether we go to 0.6, as the planner seems to be pushing for. So that's the only issue before us. Are there any other questions? We should perhaps be having the planners come to the meeting to support their position.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
I think the applicant, I think he stated in his recent submission what 0.64 FSI means, what it is in square meters. Could he tell us what that is again, just for the motion?
Wouldn't that be your
0.68 is 378.2 square meters. How many
Yeah,
square
and-
meters is 0.64?
0.64 is 356.3 square meters. So we reduced 22 square meters. We did 22 square meters reduction.
356.3.
Yeah, that, Mr. Taylor, that's variance 2. It spells that out in variance 2.
Yeah, okay.
0.64 is 356.3.
Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong notice. I have a requested FSI still of 0.68.
No.
That's the old one.
That's
We
the old.
revised-
It's
Yes,
the
we
public
revised
notice. Yeah, it's the public notice dated May 14th. It's the first page of the.
Okay, maybe to avoid me delaying while I click around here, somebody else could weigh in.
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in.
Okay.
If Don is finished. I agree with the applicant that what planning is asking for is not that noticeable a difference when you consider the design of the house. The massing of the house is what it is, and I don't think going down to what planning is saying is going to make a big difference visually. So I'm ready to make a motion for approval of the 4 variances as they were issued to the community on May 14th, as that notice, conditional on the forestry condition, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Forestry number 3. Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that? Mr. Taylor?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You were going to make the same motion, so. Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the next application, just to let you know, there is the transportation consultant retained by the applicant.
Yes.
His name is William Maria, and he is on the line in the event that there are specific questions in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 29 is 1289 to 1411 Lawrence Avenue West. It's to prevent a parking deficiency. A previous committee 149 parking spaces, and now they're coming in with 750 parking spaces. We have no objection from transportation. We have a previous decision. We have supporting materials, parking study, and the transportation report. And I guess we have the author of the transportation report available for questioning, in addition to the agent. And the speaker is James Daniel, agent, as well as we just heard from the moderator, Mr. Maria standing by with any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, we've read transportation staff's report and are obviously in agreement with their findings that the reduction in parking is acceptable for the site. We know from our own surveys that the site has about a 55% utilization, meaning there are 893 existing spaces on the property, and only 489 of those spaces are being used at the peak time. So we know that there's still sufficient parking with the reduction to what we've requested today. Yeah, we're happy with the recommendations of staff, and have myself and our transportation consultant here to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for either Mr. Daniel or his traffic consultant, parking consultant?
Just a quick comment and a question. I know this strip plaza very well. It's on two very regular bus routes, the 52 and I think it's the 41 up Keel Street. But I'm just wondering, you said you had bicycle parking, and I'm just wondering how many people take their life into their hands to ride a bike to this plaza. Do you happen to know if any of those bike spaces are used ever?
So that's a great question. I don't have that data in hand right now. Will might know from previous reports he's prepared, but yeah, a lot of people either drive to the site or take the bus routes that you had mentioned. With our new development, the new retail CRU that we're proposing that kind of created the need for this variance, we will be providing bike parking spaces in case residents who cycle would like to use them. But just anecdotally, you know, from our experience, the majority of people that come to the site drive or take the bus.
No, because there were no bike lanes on either Keel or Lawrence at that juncture. Okay, thanks. I had that comment, that's all.
And it would, yeah, I know, like for condos now, you have a requirement for not only bike storage, but bicycle visitor storage. And that's not before us here in any case, but I guess they provide it in any case. So if people do seek to go by bike.
Exactly.
Okay, so any other questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo here. I'd like to make a motion. I want clarification first from the chair. There are no conditions, is that correct? That's what I see here?
Yeah, transportation,
Okay, just wanted to
they have
clarify.
no objection. There's no conditions.
Right, that's what I thought. Just wanted to clarify that for me. I find that the variance is minor in nature. It's just parking. I don't see how it affects the neighborhood anyway. So the site needs to be developed. So I think we should go ahead with it, and I move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the following application, the adjacent neighbor at 47 Sunville Drive will not be joining us today.
Okay. 45 Sunvale Drive. This is constructed two-story front addition, a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new covered front porch, and a covered rear deck. There are 4 variances. Planning has a condition of approval. In the event of approval of the application, they would like opaque screening on the proposed rear deck on the east and west sides. And we have 6 letters of support and urban forestry requesting condition number 2. The speaker is Chris Marchese, agent. Hello again, Mr. Marchese.
Good afternoon, Sir Chair and fellow committee members. Chris Marchese here, planner at Design Plan Services, 900 the East Mall, Suite 300.
Okay, so you're okay with the planning condition with screening on the deck?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I've had the opportunity to review both the planning condition and the urban forestry condition and find them to be acceptable if the application were to be approved by the Committee of Adjustment here today.
Okay, thank you. And committee members, any questions for Mr. Marchese, or is someone ready for a motion?
Thank you, Reddick. I'm ready to move a motion to accept this application. I find the variance requested to be minor in nature, inconsistent with the principle of the 4 test.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reddick.
And I subject to the conditions from forestry and planning.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Alderson? All in favor? Okay, Danny's picture has gone out, so Danny, are you in favor?
I move, yes, I've approved the motion.
Okay, because I can't see if your hand's up or not. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to exit and come back in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Marchese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow committee members.
Okay, item number 31104, Meadow Bank. And this is an application for a new ancillary structure in the rear yard, Cabana. We have, in 2018, this was the subject of a detached dwelling with an attached garage. With only 2 variants, it was built. We now have supplemental materials. We have photos, previous decision, previous minutes, supporting materials, and a picture. We have support and we have opposition. 2 letters of opposition, 1 letter of support. 61 Harrop, I believe, is the one that's opposed. And the agent for this applicant is Lauren Rose, and also registered to speak as the neighbor at 61 Harrop in the rear. Mr. Rose, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do you need my name and address or anything? No?
Just your name is good.
Lauren Rose, I'm the architect. Thanks for your time. So this is an application for an accessory structure. The house was built a while ago, but there's no landscaping. He wants to put in a pool. So, you know, this is one of those examples where the Committee of Adjustments used to always say to me, you know, small houses, small lots, larger houses. The bylaw states that an accessory structure can be 10% of the lot area, or in this case, 60 square meters. So in this case, we are over the 60 square meters, but we're like 5% of the lot area. Most importantly is the accessory structure, which normally is allowed to be roughly 1 foot from the property line, or 0.3 meters. We're well back from the rear. We're in the middle of the lot. We're 4.29 meters, I believe, from the side yard, and 14.28 meters from the rear yard. So it's as far as it could be away from the neighbors. We have 25 neighbors who signed a petition in support. And then you have the opposition who's, I think, on the line today. So I don't have anything else to add, but I could, I'll just respond to whatever your opposition is.
And basically, you've given us this color-coded list of every people in approval. There's only 61 opposed. Also, so you said, you know, small house, small lot, small, large lot, large house, because back in 2018, I mentioned that the fact the only two variances, and I believe you were the agent on that, was for the three-car garage and the slight variance for the driveway width. So
Right.
There were no variances for the actual construction of the.
It's a large lot.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hear from, anyone have any questions from Mr. Rose before we hear from the neighbor?
Yeah, Danny, but listen, I'm having a hard time understanding the 10%, 5% rationale. Can you explain that again? For some reason, the audio was kicking in and out. Can you clearly explain that to me again? Thank you.
So under the new bylaw, the bylaw states accessory structures can be 10% of the lot area or to a maximum of 60 square meters. So in this case, we're only 5% of the lot area, but we are above 60 square meters.
Fine, that clarifies it. Thanks for explaining that.
Right, so because you have such a big lot, if you were at that, there is this absolute maximum of 60, otherwise you'd be well within, because instead of 10%, you're actually only at 5.
Yes, roughly 5,
okay, so that's the crux of your argument. Okay, so let's hear from, and you also, that picture we have, is that provided by you or by the neighbor?
The picture of the backyard?
Yes.
That's my client. And I believe it might even have the neighbor who's going to speak, her house. I'm not sure if her house is in the background.
Right, but I'm saying that's from your client's property looking out? So those little...
Yes,
those little,
that's from to the sides. It's like where we are.
Those little pine trees are facing the rear yard or the side yard?
That's the side yard.
Okay, and that's the other neighbor's house in the distance?
So there is one house parallel to ours, and then I think, I'm not sure, the neighbor who's going to speak might be the white house or the red house. So she's perpendicular. Her backyard faces our neighbor's side yard.
Okay, yeah.
If you pull up the area map, maybe she can show us where she lives.
Okay. Okay, very good. So let's hear from Janina Zuzwalak. Sorry for the pronunciation.
Hi.
Hi, you're Janina at 61 Harrow, and we have your letter.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to address, up to 5 minutes to address the committee and let us know what your concerns are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, my concern is that my husband and I bought the property for the nature, for the view, for the privacy, and now it just looks like there's less and less of it. Another thing I want to point out is the other person that was speaking about the signatures that you guys have from the neighborhood. I wouldn't count all those so fast because I know for a fact that when this lady was collecting the signatures from the neighbors, I know that in conversation she changed the number of the square footage that you people needed. She told me that
you know, hello, that's the sort of hearsay. I don't want to hear about this, that people change numbers. What do you, like, please, let's hear about what problem you have with this application, not what other people are doing, and whether to challenge. The committee has the chart in front of them. It's up to the committee to assess the weight of that. So please, let's not hear hearsay. Let's hear what your objection is to this proposal.
And what do you mean?
I want to hear what your concerns are. I want to hear what your concerns are to what has been proposed before us.
My concern is that if somebody tells me, if somebody's trying to get a signature from me and tells me that they need only 200 square extra feet, and then reality is 600 square feet.
Ma'am, did someone tell you that? Ma'am, did someone tell you that? Did someone tell you, did the applicant tell you that it's only... They told you that, or they told another neighbor and you heard it from another neighbor? That's what I'm trying to adapt.
No, the owner of the house walked around from door to door getting signatures. She told me that they only need 200 extra square feet, which is not the way it's in the application. It's 600 square feet. And this is, I'm thinking that's how she got signatures from all the other neighbors or not. Doesn't even matter because you're not even listening to what my issue is.
No, I want to hear, ma'am, what your concern is. You're telling me about you're poking holes in a petition and making some allegations. The petition says, I have seen the plans and have discussed, can you please listen to me? I have seen the plans and I've discussed the proposal with the applicants and I support the minor variance application into the Committee of Adjustment. So what I'm asking you and what your purpose here is to tell us what your concerns are, not to raised questions as to whether the other neighbors, we acknowledge you are most affected, you are behind there. So you're right, someone 3 streets away, whether they consent or not is not relevant. But please, you have 5 minutes. I'd like to know what your concerns are with this application, not to try to.
So my concern is just let me talk. You're not letting me talk. You're taking away 5 minutes. You're giving me a minute. My concern is the committee should really look at the numbers and envision that these people are trying to basically put a house in the backyard, 1,300 square feet project that is basically a house in somebody's backyard.
Okay.
Or it's even bigger than the bungalows that are on these streets. 1,300 square feet house. This is not a little cabana with a couple of posts and some straw roof. A house of 1,300 square feet. And then the signatures were collected for a reason, and what's behind it is the wrong amount of square footage that this lady was asking for. Why is that being ignored?
It says, ma'am, as I tried to explain, it says that they have seen the plans. Also, can you comment in your comments on that picture that we've been provided? Is that your house in the background beyond those small little cedar trees along the fence? Ma'am, is that your house that we're seeing in the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how far away is that house from the fence?
Are you part of the committee or you're the developer?
I'm the chair of the committee, so I'm running the meeting. I'm not the developer. I'm asking the questions. I was trying to help you when you're making your presentation. I've let you go on about other people's signature and what it meant, and and now you've told us what the concern is from your perspective.
As far as I know,
it's too big for the rear yard. I understand.
You're not giving me 5 minutes. As far as I know, I'm not the only one not agreeing with this project, because when the notice came into the mail, I actually ignored it just like everybody else until my neighbor brought this into my attention that the numbers are not what this lady is talking about. So I don't think I'm the only one who is not agreeing with this. I think I have 2 other neighbors also that emailed that are not agreeing with this. I don't understand why is this only my email in this application. Is it because I'm the only one on the phone and I can personally not agree to this? As far as I know, there's more emails.
Yes. On the package, there's a letter from Bogdanovsky's, and there's a letter from Angela Peddle. I don't know if you have their address. That's it. But the issue is, they said they were objected to anything taller than the bylaw. I don't know what they meant by taller or bigger or just taller. I don't know if it is taller. Mr. Rose will respond. But all I'm trying to say is I wanted to know, and now I know what your concerns are. You think a 1,300 square foot structure is too big for the backyard. You've identified where your house is in relation to the structure, the proposed location. So would you like to add anything else? And I've let you go on as long as you wish. So is there anything else you'd like to add, ma'am?
Well, you're obviously not looking at my whole picture, that this is basically a house and a backyard.
Okay, so the committee members have listened to what you say. They make the motions. So.
I know it's a big property, but that house already was built like oversized, and now they're asking for oversized everything.
Sorry, ma'am, you weren't. I said at the outset this house was not built oversized. There was only a variance for the 3-car garage and a slight driveway width. The house did not require any variances to the zoning bylaw. They are now asking for a variance, obviously, for this cabana. But you keep saying things that aren't true. You're not an agent, you're a
What do you mean?
homeowner, so
What's not true?
you're
What's
saying that the
not
house
true?
was
The size of-
oversized for the lot. The house, Mr. Rose has told us, and we checked in the decision, the house did not require any variance to the built form when it was built. And you just told
As
me.
far as I remember, I think I had something in the mail that they were also asking for permission to build something bigger.
No, they were asking for a
I've been here-
three-car garage and for a little bit wider driveway. Anyway, ma'am, let's see if committee members have any questions for you. Thank you for your
I
presentation.
have a quick question, just to clarify. Is the neighbor suggesting that the applicant misrepresented the facts to her in order to get her signature on a support letter?
100%.
100%.
What was she asking for? An extra 200 square feet?
Who is speaking in the
Yeah,
background?
so-
Do you hear someone else speaking? Is that Mr. Rose? Because all we have before us is Mr. Janina and Mr. Rose.
No, this is my son here.
Okay, your son, you're the speaker, so you can speak, ma'am. But anyway, Ms. Alderson just asked her question, and you said that they represented to you that it was you said 200 feet? That I saw on the
Yes.
plan. It says, I have reviewed the plans. That's what the neighbors signed. In any way, is that, you have the answer to your question, Ms. Alderson?
So you do not, you're going to ignore.
I believe I do.
What do you, you're going to ignore the fact that this lady got 23 signatures from the neighborhood telling people, or some of them, or two for sure, for what I know, that she needs 200 extra square feet, and in reality, she's asking for 600 square feet.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for the speaker?
You're going to go by all these signatures against just my address.
Does anyone else have any questions for the speaker, or we'll go back to Mr. Rose for his rebuttal? Just to go on the record, I've allowed the speaker, because we've had certain questions, we're into questions. It was 6 minutes and 30 seconds before you asked your question. So I gave you ample time. I just tried to find out what your concerns are, ma'am, and not to engage in hearsay of what's making a serious allegation without any proof.
What do you mean?
The consent letter, the letter of support says the people have said, people said they reviewed the plans. They didn't say we're approving 200 square feet. Okay, thank you. When I made my opening comments today, I said that please remember to confine your remarks to the matters in the application. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Rose, if you'd like to respond, and perhaps if you can touch upon the process of obtaining those signatures that led to that chart that you provided us with.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely right. I was not there, so anything I say is also hearsay, but I know my client very well. She did her due diligence. She went door to door. She showed the plans and the variances. Perhaps Janina might have misunderstood something. I can't speak because I wasn't there. But when you see the plans and you see the statistics, there was no misleading the neighborhood. If staff could put up the area map for a second. The one that the one that the neighbors get, the context plan.
The location map.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So my understanding is, and I'm not sure which lot, Janina lives maybe in that, so you have a lot to the north of us, that is our neighbor, and then she lives her backyard backs on to the side of the lot beside us. So you can see the neighbors behind our property are even closer to the structure that's sort of way off the rear setback. As you saw in the photos of the cedars, in the summer, there's a huge tree on her backyard, and you wouldn't be able to see this structure from her property. I know the committee doesn't guarantee rights, doesn't deal with views and sunlight and things like that, but The other letters of objection, as I read them, only complained about the height of the structure. Well, there is no height variance for the height of this accessory structure. So my feeling is that they're not going to really see it. So, you know, the middle of this structure is actually mostly glass. And I talked to my client about leaving it all glass, but he wants to be able to store his lawn furniture there in the winter, so we need doors to close it off. If it was just the two pods, so to speak, on either side, we would comply with the bylaw, but we want to close it off, so we are asking for the extra square footage. The bylaw does say 60 square meters max, but it also says 10%, and we're just under 5%. So I can answer any other questions if you have.
Okay. Committee members, any questions either for Mr. Rose or the neighbor at 61, Harrop?
Danny Bellissimo has a question for the applicant.
Yep.
It's not clear to me, but that pool is existing and the landscaping and terrace around, is that an existing condition?
It's all proposed new. Right now it's just grass back there.
So from the back of the house to the cabana, back of the cabana is all new. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, wasn't clear about that. And
that's fair point. And the front yard too is also new, but they haven't really done a proper driveway yet.
Right, but that's not before the committee.
There's no variances for any of that stuff.
Right. So I just wanted to know what was being proposed here beside the cabana. And the cabana, I can't see the grades. The cabana, is it higher than the back of fence? Is it lower?
If you go, so the properties to the rear are actually raised.
They're raised, okay.
Higher. So if you look at our elevation, we're at 13.1 feet or 3.99 meters.
Right.
You're allowed 14 feet or 4 meters.
So the neighbors in the back, then when they're looking outside from their backyard, they're seeing the roof of the cabana. They're not level with, is that correct?
If once the landscaping's done and the trees, there's a giant tree in the back.
Right.
I don't think they're going to see much of this thing. But.
No, I'm talking about grades. But in terms of grades, the grade of the house at the back, I can't see the grade elevation, but they're higher. Is that correct?
They are higher in the rear.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So the impact, they're basically looking at a roof and not looking straight on. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? And if no other questions, someone ready to weigh in with the motion.
Mr. Chair, I would accept that there was some perhaps inadvertent misrepresentation about the proposal. And I'm not going to bore anybody with my theory, but just getting to the merits of the proposal, which is what we're positioned to do. I'm influenced by the fact that this is such a large lot and that the proposed pool-related structures occupy less than 5% of the lot area. So my inclination, and I move this, is approval of the requested variance without conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Laura's hand went up first, so I'll take Laura as a seconder and you as just another. Voting in favor. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have unanimous approval, Mr. Rose. Thank you, Mr. Rose, and thank you, neighbor. Okay, next item is item 32, 30 Seacroft Crescent, which is an application to construct a two-story rear addition and an attached garage along the east side of the dwelling. There are two variances, driveway width and east side lot line. We only have one speaker, Mr. Perez. There is a transportation condition of approval, and other than that, there is nothing else before us on this application. Is that correct?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. If you flip the page, there is actually a speaker. It's going to be.
There is another speaker. Okay, yeah. The neighbor right next door. It's 28 Seacroft.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, I didn't. It's on the next page. Okay, Mr. Perez.
Members, my name is Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owners.
Yep.
We are seeking two minor variances. One is the side yard, which is 1.22, and the other one is the the maximum permitted driveway was a 3.9, and we're asking for 4.46. And our variances are very minor in nature and in keeping with the character of the area.
Okay, and you're aware of the transportation comment and their condition?
Yeah, we're aware of them.
Okay. Okay, so let's hear from the neighbor at, with your permission, let's hear from the Mr. and Mrs. Angelash, and you'll have a chance to respond. Mr.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. How are you guys?
Yes.
In regards of the two variation, I have a big concern about that.
Yeah, can you state your name, sir? Let's slow down. Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Yanuts. I am the neighbor at 28 Seacroft Crescent.
Okay. And let
And
us
I
know
have
what your concerns
multiple-
are.
First of all, the concern about the number of the enlarging the driveway, because actually he's planning to put a garage which will cover both of my doors of both of my windows of the kitchen, which I believe is a problem with the OBC Ontario code, construction code, about covering the neighbor property. And by increasing with 1.5 feet, it's actually coming much closer to the line of property or even closer. If the city will allow to break the numbers of what's the allow numbers, I will call an inspector myself after they build it to tear it down apart if it's not if it's illegal. Now, on the side of the door, there is 2 emergency exits. Will it cover those 2 to put the garage? That's another problem. And the third one is a privacy issue as well. It will take all my lights for my kitchen, both of my windows. In Richmond Hill, I couldn't build a garage because my neighbor windows were in there. If you put it in the back, as the required side is 1.8, I have no problem in the back. If you put it at 1.22, that's not right. There are 2 pictures in the property made by the agent, but the agent does not picture the driveway to see how narrow is between the property. So that's not how it works.
Sure, do you have any pictures, or I'm trying to see that I don't see any pictures, Mr. Perez?
Well, if you give me 2-3 minutes to go out, and I will make some pictures between the driveway.
Okay. No, so we have the plans that he submitted, so perhaps you can show us what your concern is on the plan. You're saying you don't agree to the smaller side yard setback.
Nope, and the other one for the number 2, because it will take more of the space between the property line. And if in Ontario you allow this number to come closer to the property line or even take space of the property line, I don't mind. If not, I will call inspector myself, and after they build it, tear it down apart. That's how it works. And
I don't understand what you're saying. If he gets a permit to build it with the variance, then it becomes legal, right? I don't understand what you're saying. You'll
how
call
it
them
make
to tear it
legal
down?
if it's illegal? If it's illegal, says the maximum required is 3.9, you stop there. You're not changing the rules because his cousin live on the same street, 5 houses away, and he do the same to the neighbor. He built a concrete garage, and then on top of it, he put another floor. So I don't want to end up with the same situation 2 years from now, which come with additional. This is what his cousin done. He made the same project. He put a garage. He make a concrete, a width garage, much larger, and then 2 years later, he end up with a 2-story on top of the garage. So I don't want to wake up with the same situation. So is a no.
I don't know what happened with his cousin and whether he went to committee for that or not. I can't comment on
But
that.
actually, that's he want to build. He want to build on top of the garage another bedroom, living room, something with a different project. Not so far after he finished the backyard.
Yeah, not with this application. He would have to reapply, as anyone could, as you could as well. Anyone can make application for anything. But right now, he's asking for a 2-story addition and the attached garage. And he
So
has 2
there's a no.
variances. You're
There's a
opposed.
no.
You're
It will
opposed.
cover my
You're
windows.
opposed. Yeah, you're opposed to both variances, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know it's in Ontario, there is a law for the Ontario Building Code, which state the following, something about glazing windows and other Article 9.1015, which is illegal to cover somebody else's property because there is lights, there is something.
Yeah.
Why I spend money on 2 nicely windows if this guy will cover my windows and he will come closer to my property as well? Make no sense.
Okay. Anyway, does anyone have any questions for the neighbor? No? Okay, so let's go back then for Mr. Perez to respond to the neighbor's concerns.
Hello again, Mr. Chair. As per the driveway, it's an existing situation. The driveway is exactly as on the drawings. I have on the drawings on the site plan indicated existing driveway. We are not enlarging the driveway. That's the way it is at this point. And as per the transportation, they were asking about the walkway. We can split the walkway and put a flower.
Sorry, just got cut off. Oh, great. Is it a full moon tonight? Okay. So anything you said, Mr. Perez, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Mr. Angelash, are you with us? Okay, so we're all back. So, okay, so Mr. Perez, you were in the middle of mentioning about something about you were showing us on the site plan and mentioned something about a walkway and we have the transportation condition if you get approved, right? You have to comply with that.
Transportation parameter that the walkway shouldn't be part of the driveway. Well, we can split the walkway with the driveway.
Anyone catch that or no? You're breaking up. Keep talking.
I was saying that transportation is asking that the walkway doesn't be continuous with the driveway. We can do that. We can separate it. It's an existing situation, the driveway.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it deals with the conditions, the transportation, you have to revise the site plan to reduce the width, 3.9, whatever. So you're going to go through these three conditions.
Yeah, okay. we can meet the requirements.
Okay. Committee members, Mr. Perez has mentioned he can keep the transportation. He was showing us the site plan with the walkway. He mentioned something about a flower bed. Does anyone have any questions, or is anyone prepared, ready to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this property has a building constraint in that it's a pie-shaped, narrow front, wider back. I can see that the proposal here, the attempt is to make the garage entrance as narrow as possible, but it still has to be practical. And that's what's caused the need for this variance request to reduce the side yard. So I think everything reasonable has been done to make this proposal as appropriate as possible. And I'll move approval subject to transportation conditions.
Okay, thank you. So that's a motion for approval subject to the transportation conditions. Yeah, there's no other conditions, no urban. Seconder for that motion?
Any Bellissimo seconds?
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries 4-1. Laura Alderson is dissenting, opposed to the motion. Correct?
Sorry, I was just late getting my hand up.
Oh, okay, so you're in favor, so it's unanimous. Okay.
I do have a quick question, though. I've got on my notes that there is a forever forestry condition. There is not?
I don't see one on this one. Does anyone else? No.
Okay.
The next application is our last application on the 1 p.m. Agenda. It is 17 Dennis Avenue. It's an application to construct a new 3-story elementary school. And there are 2 variances, the setback from the front lot line, as well as the landscaped open space, deficient by a few percentage points. I believe this matter, so we have 2 variances. We have a tree declaration, unsecured, whatever that means. We have 3 letters of opposition.
Mr. Chairman, only the agent is actually here to speak on this, and there are no neighbors.
Oh, okay. I think were there more variances last time this was before us, or no? Just remember something was going to be. So Nancy Vrooman, all these people are not appearing, just the agent, Leo Macri-Mikolos.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you.
I can speak to the variances, or I can tell you a little bit about the project. What we try to do is, yes?
Just in the interest of time, because we're running behind schedule, and we do have the opposition letters. The people who are going to speak, I don't know if some of them are in favor or some opposed. I see one was the Mount Dennis Echo Neighborhood Initiative, so I'm not assuming any of these people, or certainly all of them, were opposed, but there is no one here in opposition, so why don't you just deal with the two variances? You want to give us a little background on the school, that's fine too. But please.
Well, just about the variances, I think that let's say the front yard setback at 1.5 meters is identical to the existing school.
Okay.
Now, I think why some of the neighbors think that we've gone closer is because we made the city sidewalk much wider than the existing one.
Right.
So it looks like the building's actually close to the sidewalk, but it's exactly 1.5 meters. One of the reasons, the other thing is the existing school has a capacity of 135 students. The new one, which covers under 10% more of the site than the existing school, has a student loading of over 2.5 times the existing school. Plus, we have a 5 classroom childcare. So we've done a lot in a very small site. It's less than 1 hectare. It's 2.3 acres. Right. Now the school, we've increased the rear yard setback substantially, but we have, if you put the site plan up, you can see that we have the playgrounds for the kindergartens and for the childcare. And it's left us just enough room to get a passageway from the car drop-off and parking lot to come through the back of the site and basically enter the schoolyard without having to go across the front of Dennis Avenue.
Okay, sir, I've just been, while you've been speaking, I've been looking at two of the letters here, and it's exactly as you say. They seem to think that when they saw the variance for 1.5 meters in the front lot, they think you're coming closer. It says, wasn't able to connect with someone from the city to clarify where the front lot line is. It remains a concern as 5 meters is a large difference. All of the houses in the street are set back farther than the current school building. I do not agree that it should be any closer than when the current building already sits. So you're telling me that's where it is. So this
That's exactly what we're doing.
This person will be happy because they're saying, okay, you're not going any further forward, I'm fine. Right?
I have, thank you.
That's clearly what
further. I'm sorry.
That's clearly what their issue is. Same thing with this.
Yes.
Yuan Young. Same thing with this Jessica Reed. Exactly the same thing. They don't want it being brought any closer, and you're telling me it isn't. Right?
It isn't. No, it isn't.
Okay.
The other good news I have is they're concerned that it's a 3-story building, and the existing one is 2.5 stories. In reality, I said this is a compact building. The height to the parapet, which goes is the highest point of the building, is 12 meters. The existing building has a huge parapet. It's actually 13 meters. So the existing building is 1 meter taller than ours.
Okay. Anyway, we don't have a height variance, sir. So that's a good thing for the neighborhood if they come around asking, or if you send out any information flyers. But what's before us here is the open landscape space and the front lot line. So let's see if committee members have any questions for you, okay? Because we have a long day still ahead of us.
Thank you.
Committee members, any questions for the applicant? We've heard how we're deficient a little bit of front yard space. If everyone, you saw the site plan that he's provided, so it's not coming any closer, would seem to be the concern of the neighbors. The front lot line.
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Okay.
Given the large scale of this site, I don't see these two variances as an issue at all. They're very minor in nature relative to the size of the site. So I make a motion for approval of the two variances. I can't remember there's no
conditions, correct?
Correct.
Right, okay, so that's it, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded for Mr.
Isn't
Bellissimo's
it-
motion?
Isn't there somebody online waiting to speak to this application?
No, we were told that there are no longer any speakers. There were actually,
Okay.
Ms. Alderson,
Okay.
1, 2, there were 4 other speakers, but they're not speaking.
Okay.
Okay,
I can second that motion since I'm not muted.
okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Michaelos.
Thank you, and
Good
thank
luck
you
with the
for
score.
not butchering my name.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Okay, so that finishes the 1 o'clock agenda. I guess we can start the 3 o'clock agenda in due course. Perhaps we can take a 5-minute break. And you can get people teed up, or unless you already have them teed up for sound checks. 10-minute break? Okay. We'll return at 10 to 4. Okay.
For all attendees that are here at the 3 o'clock time slot, in a couple of minutes, I will start sound checking everyone here to see